There comes a moment in every life where silence becomes a verdict. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of permission, the kind that lets mediocrity creep in. You don't rise by what you want. You rise by what you refuse to allow. Because long before legacy is ever etched into memory, it is etched into habit. Your life this moment is not being written by your ambition. It is being written by what you permit, what you excuse, what you settle for. And the truth most run from is this: your ceiling is self-installed. You let the wrong people talk to you any kind of way. That's legacy. You let discipline slide just this once. That's legacy. You tell yourself you'll try again when it feels right. That's not delay. It's design. It's the death of distinction written in your own handwriting. The invisible ink of compromise dries quickly, and by the time you wake up, it's already the title of your story. You think legacy is about how you'll be remembered when you're gone? No, it's about how you're being watched while you're still here. It's about your daughter seeing you quit on your health, your son watching you tolerate a job that eats your soul, your team watching you say good enough when everything inside you once screamed for greatness. You are the signal, and everything around you is echoing it back. You can only teach people how to treat you by what you endure. Every time you let your voice go unheard, you train the world to ignore you. Every time you accept half effort from yourself, you train your spirit to sit quietly in the shadows. You don't need motivation. You need standards. Because standards are what shape you when no one's watching. They're what snap you into place when your feelings betray you. They're what make you unstoppable or forgettable. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb because he was smarter than the rest. He just refused to tolerate darkness. Carnegie didn't build an empire because he had more time. He just refused to tolerate average. And Lincoln didn't hold a fractured nation together with charm. He held it because he refused to tolerate the idea that the Union could be broken. They had standards so sharp they cut through history. But here's the part no one wants to hear. You're not waiting for clarity. You're tolerating confusion. You're not battling time. You're tolerating distraction. You're not looking for purpose. You're tolerating comfort. And if you're not careful, you'll convince yourself that your struggle is noble, when really it's a quiet agreement you've made with fear. Let me ask you something. When did you stop demanding more from yourself? When did you start saying it's fine, instead of this isn't me? When did your dreams go from commands to suggestions? It happens slowly. At first, it's just one missed morning, one unspoken boundary, one delayed action. Then it becomes a lifestyle of toleration, and eventually you forget what you were even trying to build in the first place. This is how greatness dies, not in the crash, but in the drift. You drift from purpose. You drift from conviction. You drift from self-respect. And before you know it, the person you tolerate in the mirror is a stranger. You want to change your life. Raise your refusal. Raise your intolerance for laziness. Raise your disgust for excuse-making. Raise your bar until it hurts, because that pain. That's the price of transformation. Every time you say, "I'll do it later," life writes down, tolerates delay. Every time you say, "I'll start when it's easier," life records tolerates excuses. And one day you'll look back and realize you weren't being punished. You were just being documented. What you accept today becomes the echo of your tomorrow. You don't need to burn your whole life down. You need to stop applauding your own hesitation. There's a reason discomfort is the door to destiny. Because if it were easy, everyone would already be living their legacy. But most don't even recognize it slipping away, because it doesn't scream when it's dying. It whispers, "This is fine." So hear me clearly. Every compromise is a seed, and one day you will harvest what you allowed. But if you dare, if you raise your standard and say no more tolerating half of who I am, no more permission slips to mediocrity. Then the universe, the very fabric of cause and effect, begins to listen. Life bends to the person who refuses to bend. Legacy is not what you build, it's what you won't let fall. And if you're ready, if you're really ready, then raise your standard until your past feels insulted. There's a lie that's been passed around like candy, coated in comfort. A sweet-sounding deception that says, you have time. You don't. What you have is a shrinking window, a brief crack in eternity where your decisions or indecisions become cement. And in that space, your standards are either saving your future or slowly sentencing it. Let me tell you something brutal but beautiful. Your future is not waiting to be discovered. It's waiting to be demanded. It is not buried beneath your past. It is buried beneath your toleration. And you dig it up not with inspiration, but with interruption. The moment you interrupt the cycles you've let run you. The moment you interrupt the voices that say, be realistic. The moment you interrupt the patterns that have kept your life at half volume. You were not born for a quiet existence. You were born to disturb the dust of what's possible. But here's what most people never learn. Tolerance is a silent architect. It doesn't need your permission. It just needs your permission slip. Every time you say, it's not that bad, you're signing the contract for stagnation. Every time you say, this is just how it is, you're handing the pen to fear and letting it co-author your story. And the world it watches. Not just what you create, but what you allow. If you tolerate toxic friendships, you write a legacy of broken boundaries. If you tolerate an undisciplined mind, you write a legacy of unrealized genius. If you tolerate blaming others for your position, you write a legacy of powerlessness. A legacy that says life happened to me and I let it. But hear me, you are not some passive character in this life. You are the author, and authors don't ask permission to change the plot. Your legacy is not some grand gesture at the end of your life. It is built in these subtle daily negotiations. It is the unseen fight at 5 a.m. It is the whisper that says, keep going when no one claps. It is the email you don't want to send, but do anyway. It is the workout you finish because your name is worth it. Don't you see, it's not about perfection. It's about protecting the signal. The signal that tells the world who you are. And every time you compromise, the signal fades, until one day all that's left is static, a life lived on someone else's frequency. You want to raise your legacy, raise your emotional tolerance for discomfort, raise your hunger for hard things, raise your disgust for stagnation. There is no next level for the one still babysitting their ego. There is no breakthrough for the one still defending their limits. And there is no legacy for the one still trying to keep everyone comfortable. Walt Disney didn't build an empire by tolerating fear. He built it by getting rejected over 300 times and still betting on vision. He didn't wait to be accepted. He tolerated risk and expelled doubt. Because that's what vision demands, intolerance for excuses. And if you study every great builder of destiny, Carnegie, Ford, Mandela, Keller, Jobs, you will find one common trait. They weren't or better. They were just intolerant. Intolerant of injustice. Intolerant of limitation. Intolerant of living small when something massive was burning inside them. You keep asking for clarity, but clarity doesn't come before courage. It comes after motion. Legacy isn't written in comfort. It's written in conflict. The conflict between who you've been and who you refuse to die without becoming. So stop trying to feel ready. Feel the friction instead. And move anyway. Your legacy doesn't care how you feel today. It only remembers what you chose to do despite a shalmit. That's what lives and that's what's passed down. That's what builds names that outlive flesh. You don't need more time. You need tighter standards. Because every time you raise your standard, your identity sharpens, your circle shifts, your momentum multiplies, And you start to feel something foreign in today's world: self-respect. You look in the mirror and finally recognize the person staring back. Not because they're perfect, but because they're present. Because they show up. Because they stand up. Because they've stopped explaining why they haven't and started proving that they can. That's the new legacy: a life lived loud in principle and private in progress. And the world may never give you a standing ovation for it, but your soul will. If this message hit you deep, if you're done living stuck, if this stirred something you know you can't ignore, like the video, not for us, but as a signal to yourself that this moment mattered, drop a comment. Let us know what you're breaking free from. Share it. Someone in your life is silently drowning, waiting for a word like this. The tragedy isn't failure. The tragedy is acceptance. Acceptance of a job you hate because the paycheck is good enough. Acceptance of a body you don't love because at least I'm not sick. Acceptance of relationships that drain you because I've known them for years. That's not humility. That's self-abandonment. And every time you do it, a piece of your potential signs off, not with a bang, but with a whisper. This could have been different. You were born into this world to lead your own revolution. But revolutions don't begin with nations. They begin with standards. With one person who decides to say no more. No more shrinking. No more stalling. No more tolerating the version of me I promised I'd outgrow years ago. You know why most people never change? It's not because they can't. It's because they won't confront the comfort they've married. They've built entire identities around doing their best while never giving their all. They've made peace with patterns that are actively stealing their destiny. And they defend their comfort zones like castles, not realizing those walls are the very things keeping greatness out. Let me tell you something powerful. Your comfort zone is not your protector. It is your prison. It convinces you that safe is smart, when in reality, safe is a slow decay. The person who tolerates fear more than they tolerate discipline will always serve someone else's dream. Because success doesn't care how scared you are. It doesn't care how long it's been. It doesn't care if your parents never believed in you. It doesn't even care if you believe in yourself yet. It only responds to the relentless. It moves for the obsessed. It bows to the consistent. It obeys the ones who obey themselves. And that obedience, it doesn't start with motivation. It starts with refusal. Refusal to continue being the version of you that excuses mediocrity. Think of the greats. Henry Ford was told he was crazy for wanting to build a car for the common man. He was mocked by industrial titans. But he refused to tolerate elitism. He refused to accept the narrative that invention belonged to the wealthy. And so, he didn't just build cars, he rebuilt an entire economic class. That's what intolerance can do. It rewrites systems. It redefines norms. It reframes what's possible. And it always begins in the mind of one person who draws a line in the sand and says, "It ends with me." So let me ask you, what ends with you? Does procrastination die here? Does bitterness die here? Does the generational curse of low expectations die here? Because if not now, when? And if not you, who? We keep waiting for signs from the universe, not realizing that you are the sign. Every second you tolerate less is a signal to the world. I'm awake now. I no longer negotiate with apathy. I no longer make space for self-pity. I no longer defend versions of myself that I'm trying to bury. And in that moment, your energy shifts, your focus narrows, your steps become sacred. Because now, everything you touch must match the person you're becoming. You don't accept average anymore because your presence demands alignment. People feel it. They sense that you are not to be persuaded. You are not to be pitied. You are not to be distracted. You are to be watched. Because where you go, standards rise. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You're no longer adjusting to the room. You set the room. And it all starts with what you will no longer tolerate. Because your life, whether you like it or not, is a reflection of your minimums, not your goals, not your dreams, not your vision board, your minimums. The lowest standard you're willing to accept is the exact level your life will calibrate to. So you want to change your life. Don't start with the mountaintop. Start with the floor. Raise the floor. Raise what you allow. Raise what you consume. Raise how you speak to yourself when no one's listening. Raise what kind of behavior gets access to your time. Raise what kind of thoughts get access to your focus. Because that's the real war, not in the world, but inside you. Every minute is a negotiation, and either your future wins or your fears do. You think you need more information, more advice, another podcast, another planner, another mentor to tell you what you already know. But the truth is, you don't need more information. You need more conviction. Conviction doesn't come from reading. Conviction comes from refusing to tolerate your own excuses anymore. It's not what you say at 9 a.m. that builds your legacy. It's what you refuse to compromise with at midnight, when you're tired, when no one is watching, when your dreams are whispering and your doubts are screaming. That's the arena. That's where legacies are sculpted, not shouted. Because while most people are out there searching for the next big hack, those who change the world are focused on the old, unsexy disciplines. Wake up when you said you would. Show up when you said you would. Say no when you said you would. Do the hard thing, especially when it's easier not to. Discipline isn't glamorous, but it's the only thing that makes greatness inevitable. The moment you accept anything less than what you said you wanted, you start writing a different story. Not with your words, but with your actions. And actions speak louder than vision boards. Actions scream. They tell the truth your goals pretend to believe. Let's stop pretending. Let's stop tolerating watered-down ambition and calling it patience. Let's stop tolerating chaos and calling it creativity. Let's stop tolerating laziness and calling it self-care. This isn't about shame. This is about responsibility. Your legacy won't be built in highlight reels. It will be built in the quiet rejection of everything that no longer serves who you were born to become. If it makes you shrink, release it. If it makes you small, walk away. If it makes you forget your power, burn it. Your standards are your signature. And what you tolerate, not what you preach, becomes your brand. You don't need to announce that you're evolving. You don't need a billboard to say, "I've changed." All you need to do is move differently, speak differently, think differently, and then let time make the announcement. Let your new results whisper what your old self used to scream. Let your habits build a platform your mouth never could. Let your growth offend everyone who expected you to stay wounded. Because there's a certain kind of quiet that terrifies average people. The quiet of someone who's locked in. Someone who's no longer trying to be understood, just aligned. Someone who's not trying to be liked, just respected by the future they're building. That kind of person can't be stopped. Not because they're fearless, but because they finally stopped feeding their fear. And once you stop feeding it, it starves. And when fear starves, you move. You move through the noise. You move through the doubt. You move through the storm, not because it's easy, but because staying stuck is harder. You think staying the same costs nothing, but it costs everything. It costs your time. It costs your clarity. It costs your inner peace. And eventually, it costs your purpose. Don't you dare let good enough become your ceiling. Don't you dare let the approval of comfortable people become your compass. You're not called to blend in. You're called to build. Build something with your life that demands attention, not because of noise, but because of alignment. Something so real, so excellent, so disciplined that even your enemies can't deny it. And that starts with what you tolerate when no one's looking. the corners you cut, the justifications you entertain, the versions of yourself you allow to drive when your destiny should be behind the wheel. Don't let the weaker version of you hold the pen to a story it was never designed to finish. Take it back, take the pen, rewrite it with sweat, with silence, with every choice that screams, "I am not who I used to be." Because you're not. You've seen too much, felt too much, lost too much, to go back to living like none of it mattered. Let the losses mean something. Let the pain purchase something permanent. Let every setback become sacred, and let your intolerance for mediocrity become your mentor. Because the standard you accept in this season will become the identity you wear in the next. Choose wisely. There comes a moment in every builder's life when they realize the blueprint is not outside them. It was never in the books they bought. It wasn't in the seminars, the podcasts, the guru's next program. It was buried deep inside, underneath layers of compromise, people-pleasing fear and approval addiction. And it only becomes clear when you get sick enough of lying to yourself. You don't need more vision. You need more intolerance. Intolerance for the half-lived life. Intolerance for the almost breakthrough. Intolerance for the version of yourself that always has an excuse, always has a delay, always has a reason to push greatness until tomorrow. But legacies aren't built on tomorrows. They're built on brutal todays, on decisive no's, on uncomfortable, inconvenient, costly action in this very moment. Because if you don't choose discomfort on purpose, life will hand you discomfort by default. And here's the harsh truth: nobody wants to say out loud, if you keep tolerating the mediocre version of you, eventually, the world will too. You teach people how to see you by how you treat yourself. You think it's about motivation. It's not. It's about standards. Motivation comes and goes, but standards, they anchor you. They remind you of who you said you'd become. They protect you from your emotions. They hold you accountable when no one else is around. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. So if your goals feel far away, don't blame the goal. Look at what you're still tolerating. Do you still tolerate distraction? Then don't be shocked when focus feels foreign. Do you still tolerate disrespect? Then don't be surprised when you struggle to respect yourself. Do you still tolerate doubt more than you practice discipline? Then of course, confidence hasn't shown up yet. Confidence is earned, not invented. And it's earned when you do the thing you don't feel like doing over and over again until your identity catches up. The world is loud with people talking about who they want to become. Few are building it silently. You want to know what separates the greats from the forgotten. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not timing, it's this. The greats have a list of things they no longer tolerate. And it's not just external, it's internal. They no longer tolerate their own laziness. They no longer tolerate delayed decisions. They no longer tolerate comfort in the presence of purpose. They put the old version of themselves on notice. And they fired their comfort zone. That's what most people are unwilling to do. They'll dream about the next level, they'll post about it, talk about it, write it in journals. But they won't become the version of themselves that the next level requires. Because that version, it costs something. It costs friendships that feed your weakness. It costs habits that rob your morning. It costs entertainment that sedates your ambition. It costs silence when you want to argue. It costs humility when you want to be right. It's not just about what you add, it's about what you eliminate. Progress is subtraction. Elevation is editing. You want a powerful life. You need a ruthless delete button. You need to look at your calendar, your choices, your daily routines, and start asking, does this behavior belong in the future? I say, I want. If the answer is no, it has to go. Not next month, not when it's convenient. Now. That's the cost of becoming undeniable. That's the cost of legacy. And if you're not willing to pay it, don't lie to yourself by pretending you are. The longer you lie, the longer you delay your own greatness. You can't fake it forever. Eventually, your life will tell the truth. It will reflect back exactly what you've tolerated. You think you can build a bold legacy with passive choices. No. Boldness is not a feeling, it's a practice. You don't wait to feel bold. You act boldly and then the feeling chases your movement. So here's the challenge. No one gives you. Don't just raise your goals. Raise what you're no longer okay with. Raise what you no longer accept from yourself. Raise what behaviors are beneath your destiny. Raise what deserves your energy, your time, your sacrifice. And once you do burn the escape plan, don't leave a back door open for the weaker version of you to sneak back in. Because the life you're dreaming of, it's already available. It's just on the other side of your current tolerance. And no one can lower that ceiling but you. If this message hit you deep, if you're done living stuck, if this stirred something you know you can't ignore, like the video not for us, but as a signal to yourself that this moment mattered, drop a comment. Let us know what you're breaking free from. Share it. Someone in your life is silently drowning, waiting for a word like this. You don't become legendary by waking up one day and stumbling into greatness. You become legendary by rejecting the version of yourself that's comfortable being average. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens moment by moment when no one's watching. In those quiet battles where you decide, no, not today. I won't go back to the man or woman I used to be. It happens in the pause before you speak. In the extra rep at the gym when your muscles scream. In the decision to keep writing when no one's clapping. In the silence between distractions when you choose vision over validation. That's where legacy is carved, not in front of the lights, but behind the closed doors of relentless, invisible self-leadership. And let me be clear, the old you won't die quietly. No, the old you will beg to be kept alive. It'll whisper things like, just rest a little longer. You've done enough today. No one will notice if you skip this one. But here's the truth. Your destiny notices. It takes attendance at every moment. And every time you show up with strength when you feel weak, you earn your next level. Discipline doesn't make you rigid. It makes you dangerous to your limitations. And people will say, you've changed. Good, that's the point. You were never meant to stay who you were. You were meant to shed skin like a snake, to evolve again and again so often that your past self wouldn't even recognize your present. If you can still relate to the person you were 2 years ago, you haven't grown enough. You've tolerated something too long. Maybe it's old thinking. Maybe it's excuses disguised as logic. Maybe it's staying loyal to a version of you that feels safe. But safety isn't where greatness lives. Safety is the home of regret. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your life making decisions that protect your current comfort, while silently sacrificing your future contribution. Stop trying to coexist with your old self. Kill it. Kill the version of you that tolerates inconsistency, that justifies distractions, that avoids responsibility, that blames circumstances, that explains failure instead of extracting lessons from it. Because the longer you keep it alive, the more it will infect your future. Look around. Most people don't live. They exist in cycles of tolerating what hurts them because it's familiar. They build routines around their limitations. They defend their own cages and decorate them like homes. But that's not life. That's a slow death. You were made to rise, to take dominion, to build, to decide. And decision is the mother of identity. You don't wait to feel different. You decide to become different and then align every action to that decision. Your legacy isn't written in one bold act. It's written in 1,000 tiny rejections of what you used to tolerate. Every time you say no to laziness, every time you say yes to responsibility, Every time you close the gap between who you say you are and how you show up. That's a line in the legacy. And when you stack those lines, you build a chapter. And when you stack those chapters, you build a name. And when you live that name long enough, you build a movement. But it begins where nobody applauds. In the quiet, in the darkness, in the private war between your potential and your permission. What are you still giving permission to? What weakness still walks around your house with a key? What voice still talks to you like it owns your future? What belief have you outgrown but still carry like a badge? Rip it off. You don't owe your past anything. You only owe your future everything. There's nothing noble about tolerating what sabotages you. That's not humility, that's self-abandonment. You were given breath for a reason, and that reason wasn't to blend in. It was to break patterns, to disturb comfort, to become so aligned with your purpose that you make the average feel unsafe. Because when someone fully owns their calling, it exposes everyone still hiding from theirs. That's why people will criticize you when you stop tolerating mediocrity. It reminds them of what they haven't confronted in themselves. But don't you dare apologize for raising your standard. Don't you shrink so others feel better about staying small. Don't you ever dim your light to soothe someone who's afraid to shine. Be uncomfortable to the average. Be polarizing to the stagnant. Be dangerous to the old you. Your future will thank you, and your legacy will immortalize you. There's a point in every warrior's life where they must walk alone, not because they were abandoned, but because greatness doesn't travel in crowds. It carves its path through solitude. It shows up when no one claps. It grows loudest in the silence of commitment. And while the world obsesses over how things appear, you'll be obsessed with how things are. Because you're no longer tolerating appearance over substance. You don't just want a good-looking life. You want a true one. You want a life where your peace isn't rented from people's approval, where your worth isn't negotiated by circumstance, where your name means something when you say it to yourself in the mirror. But that level of truth costs. It costs the lies you've made comfortable. It costs the ego you once protected. It costs the shortcuts that used to feel smart but left you hollow. And it costs the crowd, because the crowd doesn't cheer when you change. It questions, it mocks, it remembers the you that made them comfortable. But you are not obligated to be who you were. You are allowed to reinvent. You are commanded to evolve. The longer you tolerate the version of you that was built for survival, the longer you delay the version of you that was built for impact. You are not here to maintain. You are here to multiply, to take the raw material of your life, every setback, every scar, every failure, and turn it into a weapon of intention. Because your past is not proof of what you can't do. It's proof of what you've already outlived. There is nothing back there for you, no apology you didn't get, no explanation that will make it right, no moment that will redeem the pain. Because the redemption is you. You becoming who you were born to be is the revenge. You refusing to be a prisoner of old stories is the revolution. You deciding to take full authority over your next breath is the beginning of legacy. And if you're waiting for permission, let this be the moment. You do not need to keep people comfortable who refuse to grow with you. You do not need to keep playing the small role that others wrote for you. You do not need to explain to the world why you are no longer the person they remember. You are not here to be remembered for what you tolerated. You are here to be remembered for what you transformed. Toleration is not compassion. It's compromise. And compromise, when it becomes a pattern, writes a story of regret. That's why people die with books inside them, businesses inside them, songs unsung, speeches unspoken, visions unfollowed, because they tolerated too much fear, too much doubt, too much delay, and not enough fire. You were given the fire. Now decide what you'll burn. Will you burn your excuses or burn your future, trying to keep them? Will you destroy your insecurities or let them slowly destroy your identity? Will you eliminate the lies that say you're not enough? Or will you tolerate the weight of always almost becoming something? You cannot have it both ways. You cannot cling to safety and expect to be free. You cannot dance with mediocrity and expect excellence to marry you. The world doesn't give legacy to the tolerated. It gives legacy to the disciplined, to the ones who choose hard now over heartbreak later, to the ones who look at their patterns and say, "This ends with me." And if you're hearing this, maybe you were never the one meant to be average. Maybe the discomfort you feel isn't a curse. It's your soul rejecting the level you're pretending to be okay with. Because pretending is a slow poison. Every time you pretend you're okay with what hurts you, you betray your future self. Every time you pretend you're okay with a dream half-lived, you starve your potential. But today, you stop pretending. Today you rise as the editor of your existence. You take the pen back from fear, from habit, from history, and you write something different. You write with purpose, not with permission. You speak with truth, not with timidness. You move with decision, not with delay. You don't need to wait to become someone worth honoring. You just need to stop tolerating what keeps you from seeing that you already are. Every empire that ever fell didn't fall from outside forces first. It fell from what it tolerated within. A small crack in the foundation. A whisper of doubt that was never silenced. A tolerated vice that grew into a way of life. And no matter how high the walls were built, the decay always started in the places no one was willing to examine. You are the empire, and your legacy will be determined not by what people see, but by what you refused to ignore when no one was looking. It's not the public decisions that define greatness. It's the private ones, the ones no one claps for, the ones that start at 5 a.m. when no one is watching, the ones where you say no when the crowd says yes, the ones where you walk away not because you're weak, but because your vision is too heavy to carry their drama too. Your legacy doesn't begin when you make it. It begins when you stop tolerating the patterns that sabotage it. Let me say that again for the voice inside you that still needs to hear it. Your legacy begins where your tolerance ends. If you tolerate laziness, you train your destiny to settle. If you tolerate distraction, you train your calling to drift. If you tolerate relationships that drain you, you become the co-architect of your own burnout. But if you rise, if you say, "This isn't who I am anymore," if you decide the cycle ends with you, you become the signal the next generation was waiting for. You become the reason your family line starts healing. You become the blueprint that others copy when they don't know where to start. You become the living permission slip that shows others what discipline, clarity, and courage actually look like in the flesh. And the world will try to distract you. It will try to seduce you with ease, with quick wins, with hollow praise, with shortcuts disguised as wisdom. But your soul will never be nourished by what came cheap. It was built for fire. It was built for stretching. It was built for days where you feel like quitting but don't. It was built for the nights you cry but keep writing anyway. Built for the failures that don't end you but forge you. Because you are not made of porcelain. You are made of power. But you only activate that power when you stop tolerating less. There's a reason the dream inside you doesn't go away. There's a reason that voice keeps whispering, more is possible. More is inside you. You were not made for smallness, and yet you silence it. Because the old version of Youth 1 that tolerates still has the mic. So smash it. Take the mic back. Speak the truth out loud until fear drowns in its own echo. Say it now and say it strong. This version of me doesn't walk into the future. I do. Burn the bridge back to your comfort zone. Let them talk. Let them mock. Let them misunderstand. You weren't built to be understood. You were built to be undeniable. So be undeniable. Be so disciplined that chaos can't find a way in. Be so committed that comfort loses its grip. Be so obsessed with rising that excuses evaporate in your presence. This isn't about motivation. This is about dominion. Ownership of your space. Authority over your mind. Mastery over your actions. And alignment between what you say and how you live. Because the greatest flex isn't the money. It isn't the lifestyle. It's waking up and realizing I didn't fold. I didn't shrink. I didn't tolerate the trap. I built my life like a fortress, one non-negotiable at a time. This is your hour. This is the line in the sand moment. This is the future looking back at you and asking, did you just survive? Or did you finally decide that what you tolerate will no longer decide who you become? So now we come to the edge, the moment where the old you clings for breath and the new you demands to be born. Not because the timing is perfect, not because the fear is gone, but because you've finally realized what you tolerate isn't just shaping your habits, it's writing your legacy. You've seen what happens when you ignore that truth. You shrink. You settle. You slowly become a stranger to the fire that once lit your bones. But now you know too much to go back. You can't unhear this. You can't unsee who you could be. You can't unknow the weight of your own potential. So do something about it. Don't just feel this. Fight with it. Don't just watch this video. War with every excuse that kept you waiting. Don't just agree in silence. Declare it in action. Because the moment you say no more to what drains you, the moment you stop explaining your standards, the moment you stop negotiating with your lesser self, that's the moment your legacy takes shape. So if this message stirred something in you, don't keep it quiet. Like this video. Share it with someone who's been tolerating too little of themselves for too long. And drop a comment below with the words, "I'm done tolerating smallness." Let this not be the end of a video, but the beginning of a standard. Because what you tolerate is who you become. And this world doesn't need more comfort. It needs more people who refuse to be average. Let that be you. Let it start now. Let it never end.